when you're giving money to the foundation, you're really not, it's not me and Jamie that you're giving money to, right? You're giving money to 40,000 kids that deserve an excellent education and are getting an excellent education, but maybe could use a little bit extra help, right? Or you're giving money to some kids that are, they're living in their car for a little while and they just need a little support so that they can focus in school.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of the West Ada podcast. And today, I said this in the podcast, I did not know about our education foundation, despite the fact that both of my kids were in West Ada from kindergarten through 12th. I didn't really know what the Education Foundation did until I started working here, and we get to introduce our guest.
Our amazing guest, Jamie Burton. She's our Executive Director of the West Ada Education Foundation, and Lila Lake is our grant coordinator. And they are a powerhouse team. They're small and mighty, but they get a lot of work done with a huge heart.
Well, they really do, and I'm just so glad that you're here to listen to this conversation because there's so many different ways, so many different needs, and so many different ways for all of us to be helpful in our community.
And we can all give back. If it's $5 or $5,000, it all helps and it touches every single kid in our district.
Well, thank you so much for being here for the conversation. Let's get to it.
Well, what a joy it is to have you two with us today. Friends and colleagues that we get to work with every day.
I get to annoy them every single day,
sure
and it's
do.
lovely.
Yeah, you sure do. And these are the two lovely ladies behind the West Ada Education Foundation. We have Lila Lake and Jamie Burton. Welcome, ladies.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
So excited.
Yeah, it's fun to have you here. Jamie, why don't you give us a little bit of your background and how you came to be the Executive Director of the West Ada Education Foundation?
Sure. Yeah, it's a really funny story. Not funny. It's a great story, actually. But I was in tech, and so we had our own business and did that for many, many years, and then kind of just felt a calling to do something that was more impactful. I had volunteered a lot in education foundations previously. As president, and then and so on, and hired actually an executive director for that foundation. And then when I was kind of looking to do a career change, I thought, I'm going to go back to school. I have a business degree. I was like, I'm going to go back to school and get my teaching credential. My passion is really to impact children's education. And I think education is the key to a child's kind of career path and their path forward. And
100%.
So I thought, I'm going to go back and get my teaching credential. And when I did that, I went on West Ada's website to actually look for some opportunities to get classroom time and hours in, and found the executive director role. And I thought, gosh, this is the perfect kind of coupling of my business background, my foundation experience, and also impacting kids' lives and their education. And so I applied, and here I am a year later. It's been the biggest blessing in my life.
I can just say we are thrilled to have you, and you've done so much great work with the Education Foundation, but we'll get into that. And so shortly after you came on board with the foundation, Lila, you were hired. You want to give us a little bit of your background? Because I think it's quite interesting.
Yeah, so prior to working for the Education Foundation, I'd been working for West Ada for about 10 years. So I did my student teaching at Lake Hazel Middle School. I taught for Mountain View High School for 2 years. And then I also
Hold on. You're bearing the lead, though, because you actually went to Lake Hazel and Mountain View, like my son. I'm like, this is so cool.
Yeah, I went. Yes, I'm a West Ada kid through and through. I went to Lake Hazel Elementary, Lake Hazel Middle, Mountain View High School. And then I worked there. And then I finished off my teaching career at Renaissance High School. I worked there for 6 years. It was truly an amazing experience. Shout out Renaissance, great kids, great staff, and also all the other schools too. And then after that, after working there, I did a little bit of stint of grant writing for the Humane Society. Oh my gosh, for Habitat for Humanity. And so that's kind of how I got plugged into the grant writing world and sort of how I got acquainted with all the foundations in town. But when I saw that West Ada was hiring, I was like, that's such a perfect fit. I love my teaching background. I want to stay close to education for the rest of my life. But I also was just really excited to explore more grant writing opportunities and kind of make that career change. So that's why I'm here. And it's been awesome. It's been so great to work with Jamie and with you guys. And I feel the same.
That's really cool.
Well, I just think it's so fascinating, people's journeys to get to where they are, right? Like every little step along the way is preparing you for the next thing. And your teaching background surely gives you that insight and perspective from being a teacher. And that's a lot of what we do, or you do, as the foundation. Jamie, will you share a little bit about kind of the goal of the foundation and what you guys do?
So the initial goal of the foundation when it was formed in 1987 by a group of parents was to fund innovation and creativity in the classroom in the form of grants. So we still to this day do that.
Yeah, I bet that looked really different in 1987.
I know, right?
How fun if you could look back at that.
I wish I could find like all the paperwork, right? I've had some conversations with people not back that far, but back a little bit. But I think it's evolved, but we've really stayed true to holding to that. And so that's one of the main things that we provide for the district. The other thing that's kind of come into the foundation over the years is really community needs. So those in the district that really are in need, and I'll talk more about this later, but through our RISE program, we also support teachers directly. So parents are able to directly donate to classrooms. So there's that. And then we couple with a lot of different programs. So it's kind of, that's what we're here to do, is really provide supplemental funding in the areas that are in need in the district.
That's totally great. Well, and Lila, from your perspective, I mean, there's got to be so many different grant proposals and different things that come across your desk. What catches your eye when you're looking at projects? What kind of catches your eye?
Well, I think what catches my eye is when a teacher has an incredible idea and something that's going to like revolutionize what they do in their classroom. And so like when I was a teacher, I think my biggest thing was like, how do you motivate kids to be excited about learning? And so when a teacher has an idea and they email me or they apply for a grant through the foundation, what I'm always really excited about is when I'm like, I wish I thought of that, like that would be just such a cool way to engage kids. And when you know that a kid is going to have a hands-on learning experience that they wouldn't otherwise have, that really excites me. And so that's what really our classroom innovation grants are supposed to do, is to give teachers those opportunities, maybe supplement some resources in their classroom so that they can get kids really excited and give them real world experiences that they wouldn't otherwise have. And I think that's really where West Ada thrives, is like giving hands-on, career-centered focus on kids learning.
That's really well, and I'm being redundant here, but how important was your time in the classroom in helping you do what you do now?
I think the most important, I have a huge heart for kids, and I literally cannot speak more highly of my career as a teacher. I think it was the most rewarding thing, and like taught me so many life lessons. I truly shaped who I am as a person. And so I think like I'm so inspired by that, and I feel really proud to be able to be to try to help teachers and represent teachers in everything that I do, because really like they're doing just the most amazing work.
That's cool. Yeah. That's really cool.
Jamie, the foundation's impact is really impressive. And so we're only about, we're almost halfway through this school year, but
which is crazy, but
it's crazy. I know. Can you share some of the numbers from last year and then kind of how that looks this year? Because I know, Ken and I get to work with you and see every day, like you guys grind to get more donors in, to get more funding in, to really help. Will you share some of those numbers?
Yeah, definitely. So last year, our innovation grants, because that's kind of what we've been talking about, we gave out $115,000 to 66 different teachers at 39 different sites. And I'm going to drop this here on the podcast. So first out there for the public.
Well, hold on. Breaking news. Hold on. I may have to put in some music or something.
This year, we just finished delivering our grants last week. Yeah. And we were able to deliver 73 grants to 41 different sites, totaling $154,000 to our teachers. So this is kind of to what Lila was just talking about, like bringing those great, innovative, creative ideas to life so that those kids can learn in a much different way and it's hands-on. And it is probably the best part of our job is being able to go deliver these checks. Yes. Like it is so... to see the teachers, there's tears, there's screams, it is cool. So impactful. So
or just seeing an elementary class get excited about their teacher. There's nothing like it. Like truly, and sometimes you have to kind of explain like what the money's for and what they're doing. But just seeing a kid get so excited because they love their teacher so much, or that they're just so excited to learn. Like last year we had a teacher, we gave a grant so that they could do a live study of owls. They were doing a big owl project. So they were looking through like owl scat or whatever it's called.
All those exciting things to tell us.
But they were, they were going to read a book about it, but they had no idea. So when we went to drop off the grant, she was like, okay, so this money is because we're going to study owls. And there was like a moment of silence, and then like the most excitement. All of them just like so yelling, excited, cheering. And then when we went back to that classroom, what that class did was truly amazing. They put on like a huge fair, like a museum. They wanted to tell us all about the owl studies they had. They knew way more about wildlife biology than I did, and they were like third graders. It was amazing. It was really,
incredible.
really, really cool.
And all their parents came, and it was so neat.
So it really impacts the whole community. And there's something fun that's like with elementary kids, and I've seen this with you before. Like you'll come in with a big check. They're literally big, fake checks. Yeah. And it's like $1,000, and the kids will be like, "Whoa, you're a millionaire!"
It's so cute. Love it.
$1,000. And some of them they'll ask them, like, "Can you say this number?" Like
it's always a learning opportunity, right?
That's really cool. Well, this might be kind of a hard question, but Jamie, how hard is it to figure out where you're going to allocate those funds? How difficult? What's that process like? How difficult is it? Or is that even the right way to describe it?
Yeah, so our programs are obviously always in discussion with our board. So we have an amazing board of directors. There's about 14 board members. And so we're always looking at kind of what we fund, right? And we try to stay in line with what the district is looking at for their strategic plan. We never want to fund something that is not in line with where the district is going and where their learning, curriculum is going and stuff. So we try to kind of partner those two together. But our board does look every year. In June, we get together and we set our budget and we kind of go off of what the programs we funded last year and what we think and anticipate the increase for those programs. And then we are always looking at our strategic plan. So we have a 3-year strategic plan in place that my board and I kind of formulated last year. And so we're always kind of staying on track with that. And so that's how we decide where those funds go. We don't just get a donation and go, "Hey, today we want this to go here." We really we're very cautious and very thoughtful about where every single dollar goes before it's even raised. So we don't ever try to raise anything unless we have a goal for it, if that makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense. Who makes a good board member, or what does that look like? Like who adds value to your board and why?
Yeah, I would say there's kind of a 3-prong approach to that. So obviously, they have to have passion, right, for what we do. Their philanthropic goals have to align with our mission. And so that's always number 1. Number 2 would probably be someone who has some reach in the community, right? So can bring us to other people and kind of bring us to the community at large, whether that be through a corporation or just someone that's really well connected and has a lot of influence in the community. And lastly would be kind of the people on the ground at the sites. So different parents that are connected and just have a passion for education and want to get involved. And so we're always just looking for, firstly, that passion, but then secondly, kind of the reach and spreading our awareness about what we do. And obviously, at the end of the day, we're trying to raise money. So anyone that can bring in funds is always great too, but that's not a requirement of our board members either to go, fundraise. It just is a kind of a side thing. So but we love, our board is great. I can't talk enough about them.
Looking for a school that matches your child's passions and potential? West Ada Schools of Choice offer specialized programs in STEM, arts, and advanced academics, from elementary through high school, all within Idaho's largest school district. Apply between November 1st and 30th, and don't miss the lottery draw live stream on December 9th to see placements in real time. Learn more and start your application at westada.org. You'll find the link in today's show notes. West Ada School District, preparing today's students for tomorrow's challenges.
Jamie, the foundation doesn't just fund innovation and creativity in the classroom. You also serve another very important role in funding like bbasic needs, right? Can you share with our listeners about that?
Yeah, I would love to. We actually have a campaign coming up, so I would definitely love to share about it. Our campaign's called Rise to the Challenge, and it supports our program, which is called Rise. Previously, if you're familiar and in the district, we used to call this program Bridging the Gap.
Okay.
Rise stands for Resources for Individuals and Students in Emergency. And really what we're here for is a one-time emergency assistance for families that are facing hardship. And so at the end of the day, our goal is to ensure that kids can learn in a classroom. It's really hard to do that if you're hungry. It's really hard to do that if you're cold. It's really hard to do that if you're really insecure because you have a hole in your shoe. And it's even harder to do that if you can't get to school. Right. And so we kind of serve and we work with counseling very, very closely, our counseling department and our community schools. And we work together to be able to identify these needs. So the counselors and the social workers will identify these needs, and then we help to fund kind of those things. And so some examples would be a few weeks ago, we had a family that was living in an RV in need of a generator. And so we're able to provide that, right? And so that's warmth.
Yeah.
There's some families that just need utility assistance, that their bills were cut off, their utilities were cut off. And so we have a one-time assistance up to $350 where we'll assist a family to be able to provide that. Sometimes, as I mentioned, getting to school, sometimes the counselors or social workers will check in and they realize that the reason the child can't get to school is because there's a car battery that's dead or something like that, or it's gas.
Sure.
So we'll be able to provide that to ensure that that child can actually get to school. So our RISE program is something that's very near and dear to my heart. And I think also close to our community. And I think sometimes we look around and we don't realize that these needs exist within our community. And so I hope that this campaign really brings awareness to that. And I hope that the community can kind of get involved and want to be a part of helping these families to get through those hard times. Again, we're not here to be reliance. So it is a one-time assistance. And I like to say that because we're just really bridging that gap, to use last year's name, till they can get a little more stable. So.
And it's not like this money doesn't just come from nowhere. You don't have campaigns for no reason, right? And so you have this RISE campaign because really it's a fact that this need has grown greater and greater.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that, because last year we ended the year giving out about $64,000 total in our Bridging the Gap fund at that time.
Right.
And
for the whole school year.
For the whole school year.
$64,000. Okay.
This year, in the first month of school, we have given out close to $50,000 in resources. And so if you think about that, kind of going back to your question previously, we budgeted for that $64,000, and obviously anticipating some increase, and we always have cushion, right? We're very we're very responsible with our funds, so we always have some cushion. But that's a whole different fundraising game, right? And so we are really anticipating that the growth is going to continue, and so we're hoping that our RISE campaign this year is very successful, so we can continue to support those needs within the district.
Well, okay, and I'm stating the obvious, but I mean, we have almost 40,000 students in our district. There's going to be stuff. There's always going to be stuff. I mean, can you speak to that, Lila? I mean, how do you juggle all of those needs?
Well, I think, again, we do a lot of collaboration with a lot of different departments and who have maybe they have a pulse on what the community is looking for. And so that's been really helpful for us, is our collaboration with counseling, our collaboration with social work. But again, a lot of it is just backwards planning. And so, Jamie and I go back at the beginning of every year. We start to think about what do we want to fund? So even just going back to our innovation grants, this last year, we were let's fund as much as we did last year and maybe a little bit more, because we're always trying to grow. In terms of RISE, we have been surprised by the increase in needs. Although, I mean, I think if you look around, we know people are struggling. And so now we're pivoting and trying to reach out to as many people as we can and just tell the stories of the, amazing work that the district is doing and what families are actually in need of. So for me, what that looks like, because I'm also a grant writer, so I coordinate our innovation grants, but I also write grants, and I'm looking for resources in the community. And we're really blessed in Idaho to have so many different foundations that are Idaho specific. And so a lot of what my job looks like is just reaching out to them, telling our story, and making sure that they know how we're actually bridging those gaps. And making sure that this people that are in emergency actually get the help they need.
Okay, well, I'm going to be a knucklehead and just admit this. Okay,
Go for it.
My kids were in West Ada every day from kindergarten through senior year. And you guys, before I started working here, I wasn't really aware of the Education Foundation and what you all do. I don't know, Jamie, why is awareness so important? I mean, obviously, all that we're talking about, but why is awareness so important?
That was kind of my number one thing when I started this job and I had referenced the strategic plan earlier, but that's the number one thing within our strategic plan is building awareness and visibility. And how do we do that, right? So I think we've done a great job at it so far. I think we have a long way to go. But I do think that several parents have come up to me over the last year and gone, I didn't know that it exists. And now, ever since you've been there, I hear about it all the time, which makes me proud.
I'm glad I'm not the only knucklehead, but go on.
No, several. And actually, I had a principal who said, I didn't realize that, that you guys were there and that's what you did. So I think it's a great opportunity, right? And I think that it's been a great challenge to kind of look at that. This year we implemented a couple things like back to school coffees at all of our elementary sites, just to say, hey, welcome back to school. Here's some coffee. Here's what we do. We're the West Ada Education Foundation. So trying to engage those
kind
parents.
of like guerrilla marketing kind of thing. Yeah. Sure.
Yep. And putting together campaigns.
Oh, and I think that like what we really want is to make I think West Ada is a small family or a big family, really big family, I guess.
But broken into smaller pods.
But it's one of the things that I think Jamie and I are both like so passionate about is like getting to know like who is in our community, who are our teachers, who are our principals, who are our families. And so we've been trying really hard to build connections across the board so that people know like who we are and then also that we're here to help in whatever way we can.
Call us.
I love that.
Yeah, please call us, email us.
I love that.
Jamie, because I work with you, I know that you're always researching and looking for best practices and new ideas and things like that. What do you think makes the West Ada Education Foundation special or unique compared to other education foundations that you've looked into across the country?
Yeah, I have done a lot of research about education foundations across the country, especially at our size. And until you're involved in a foundation, you really can't tell the culture of it. But what I will say is special about ours is that we are, as Lila just said, we're huge. 40,000 children, 4,500 staff almost. I mean, it's really big. But what is so amazing is that we feel like a small family. And I think that's something that we're continually always looking at building on is like, how do we become part of the West Ada Education Foundation? Not just, I want to contribute or donate or like, how do you become a part of that? And it's actually something to be continued. But next year, I think we're going to do more of like a membership, like be a part of us because we really are a family. Like, and what we do supports one another, and we support our teachers, and we support our staff, and we support our students and our families in need. And so, looking at it from that perspective, I think is what makes us really special and unique.
Yeah. Well, I love the vantage point from my office. I can see community members coming in to meet with you, and I get to kind of hear you walking them back out or walking them to your office. And I'm always surprised at just the everyday parents who come in and they're just blessed with a greater income source, and they will come in and just give money so freely. Yeah. And it's so humbling and heartwarming just to see like people I know in our community who, are just regular people, but giving back to help others around them.
Yeah, it is touching. And honestly, we have so many generous people in our community. And it is so impactful. It's why I love the job that I get to do, is because not only do I get to impact kids' lives, but I get to meet people who also want to do the same thing. So when I reference our board, like they all work, most of them, I think everyone works actually on the board right now. But they choose to donate their time. People choose to donate their resources. Like those are the things, like when I say it's a small family, like it is. And it's really, truly touching. I try to always tell everyone, even our sponsors who just want to write a check, I try to always make the effort to, and Lila does the same, and this is kind of what we do as a foundation, try to make the effort to go back and say, this is your impact. Like this year we brought sponsors with us to deliver those checks because I tell you, I can send an email all day, but bringing them to see that kids scream and that class, and is so impactful. They were blown away by West Ada. And so, it's like you're saying, it's just very touching. So I love that I get to do that.
Full disclosure, I get to follow you guys around sometimes with a camera, and I'm like, oh, this is so cool. And I'm like, I don't know, it's just cool to be able to see what you all do and why. So it's really neat.
It's really fun.
Yeah. Well, Lila, I'm kind of shifting gears a little bit, but so for the teacher that's watching right now, and they're going, how the heck do I write a successful grant? Like what tips and tricks or advice would you give to our teachers to be successful in that?
I mean, I think, and this is my English teacher background talking, and I would say the same thing to a kid, but I really think like the most important thing when you're writing a grant is to focus on why. Right. And so like what is the why of what you're asking for? Right. So instead of focusing on like the resources, even though that is important, it's like, how is that going to change a kid's life? How is that going to improve a student's learning, right? Like whatever it is that you need in your classroom, like what's the end result going to be? And ultimately, right, every teacher, I think they all have big hearts, and what they really are focusing on is like, how am I going to help this kid, right? And I think if that's the center of like what you're asking for, people listen and they hear that. The other most important thing is to follow directions and have a good budget. But
that's real.
Yeah, no, I mean seriously. But I think like really like when I'm helping a teacher, what I want to help them focus on is like, like. Tell the story of your classroom and like why it matters, because it does. And I think that can be like a cool thing for donors to see, because they're not in classrooms. They don't know, right? There's so many struggles. There's so many day-to-day things that come up. But if you can eliminate some of those problems and just get kids to focus on learning, like that's huge. And so that's my focus. And then I also would just say, you can email me at grants@westdata.org. I'm always happy to help. I'll come to your classroom, anything like that. So.
I will put all your email addresses and contact information in the show notes today. So it's important. Yeah.
You know, I'm curious, and maybe just for our listeners too, when teachers apply for grants through the foundation, it's not just Lila and Jamie sitting here like reviewing the grants. You have a whole committee. Do you want to just give a quick highlight of what that looks like to narrow down and fund?
So we have board members that are on our grants committee, and they're amazing. They read through all of our applications, and then we also have just started to have a rotating cast of principals. So we have principals from the elementary, middle, and high school level, which has been so helpful because they have the context for what the day-to-day looks like at all of their levels, and they kind of they have an understanding of budgeting and things like that. But honestly, the people on our grants committee do such amazing work. This last year, we got 181 applications and 181 budgets to match that. And they went through every single one of those.
And for reference, the year prior, we got how many applications?
The year before we got 86. So this year was like twice as much work for everybody, which is amazing. We're so happy about that. I think it really means that people are starting to see that the foundation is here and we can support. But it's a lot of work. But I mean, I think people really enjoy it because you get to have little glimpse into 181 different classrooms and what their needs are.
Yeah, I want to share also that so before it even gets to us as a committee, because we are not all educators. Lila has the unique position that she was an educator, but most people on my board and myself, we're not. Yeah. And so we definitely don't want to decide what is appropriate or not. So everything gets vetted through curriculum before we ever even get to it. So curriculum, and if it has a tech component, it goes through our IT team, which it decides, they decide whether we can actually do and connect with that device and kind of utilize it. So things are cut out before we can even decide on them.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, and I always say this, my background is not education, but I actually think that's good for me in my role, because I think differently. Why are different perspectives and different on your board, and why is a different perspective important in your opinion?
I think it's really important. I think actually it's beneficial to me as well in my role.
Sure.
Because there's so many resources here that I can go to for the educational piece, but the business background and the foundation experience is crucial, right? And so what I'm doing is really business related, and it's a lot of looking at finances and kind of reports and coming up with strategic...
I hate spreadsheets, by the way. Just
I love a spreadsheet.
I know you love a good spreadsheet. Yeah.
But being very strategic and high level planning, like, that's where I live. I love that. And so I think it's beneficial in that way. And again, I then lean on other people around me, like Lila a lot, and then other people in different departments to be able to tell me the educational piece.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it is beneficial. I do think there's sometimes I'm like, I don't know that acronym. There's a lot of acronyms in education.
Yeah.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Go to YouTube, search West Ada School District, and like and subscribe today.
Jamie, a few times you've mentioned your 3-year strategic plan, and I love that. You're always planning. So what does the future look like? Looking ahead, what's going to go on with the foundation, and what are you looking forward to?
Hopefully we raise a lot more money year over year. That's number one.
Not
always.
the worst thing in the world.
Always ambitious. I love it.
But really, I have some, in the board, we all have some really great ideas. And one of them is that we would love to really focus on a legacy kind of gift strategy.
Yes.
And so those people whose kids maybe went through the district and their grandkids are going through the district, and maybe they're looking at their estate planning and how that involves West Ada, right? They could be really passionate about one specific school, and maybe they're passionate about a sport at that school. It doesn't matter. We can make an endowment fund for anything. And so really looking at that legacy gift and that legacy planning, even as seniors leave the district, to approach those parents and say, hey, if it's their last child in the district, we hope that you enjoyed your tenure here at West Ada. Would you consider giving back to those who are still in the West Ada school district, and what that looks like? So really focusing on kind of a legacy planning approach, and working with some financial planners to put together some one sheets and kind of come up with some tax advantage language and that kind of thing. So I'm excited about that because I think it's a great opportunity, because you don't want to just always be looking to raise funds right now. You want to look for ways that you're going to continually fund things in the future, being strategic with the investments that are given right now. So
makes a ton of sense. Yeah.
That's something that I found interesting that I didn't know before about the foundation. And you've kind of explained to me that when there are funds in there, you look to invest them in different ways so those funds are growing. I think that's super cool. And maybe people don't understand that, but that legacy giving, that's all a piece of the pie of a foundation. What does that look like? What do the funding sources look like? You mentioned legacy planning and then investing. Can you give us a picture of that pie?
We have some. So as far as like our donations in general, I would say we have a lot of corporate sponsorships that come in. And so that's kind of our biggest piece of the puzzle would be corporate sponsorships. So we're always looking to strategically partner with corporations, local foundations and grant writing. Lila does an amazing job. We're so blessed to have her. And so that's a big piece of the puzzle. And then obviously we have an endowment that was established. And so looking to grow that. So that, again, future planning, that will continue to fund things year over year, right, as it continues to grow. And then direct donations from individuals and families in the district. And so that's another piece. And then we have kind of like one-off situations, right? So we'll have grants from the state or from the federal government, very, very rarely from the federal government, but we're always looking at options there. So those are kind of the big pieces of the puzzle.
So it's not so much just fundraising. You're not just always like trying to have these fundraising events and that's it. There's a lot of diversified
and events,
ways.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the one piece I missed is events. We do have an annual golf tournament that we host, and we're hoping to add a second event. I just can't give any details on that yet.
holding the cards close to the vest.
Yeah.
Well, Lila, I think we've talked a couple of times already in this conversation, like the need has you've seen the need really go up in the last year. I got to imagine that the way funding works, it's always evolving, always changing. How do you have to evolve what you do? How do you have to change what you do?
I mean, I think I do a lot of research, and I also try to reach out to like people that are experiencing similar stuff to our education foundation. So I ask a lot of questions, and I try to pay attention to as many like nonprofit resources as I can and see sort of what they're doing. So there's just a lot of ongoing research, ongoing collaboration. That's part of it. And then also like having conversations with people in the community really helps. And so like we've been able to have so many amazing corporate sponsors, and that just starts with a conversation and letting them know what our needs are. Even though like, I mean, there's federal cuts and things like that we can see sort of coming and happening more and more frequently. But I think the more that Jamie and I think you've done such a great job with that, just built relationships with people who want to support West Ada and give them different opportunities. I mean, it really makes a difference.
Well, you did, but like relationship building. Why is relationship building so important?
Well, I think it's a heart of what we do, right? And so it's like, you know, like when you're giving money to the foundation, you're really not, it's not me and Jamie that you're giving money to, right? You're giving money to 40,000 kids that deserve an excellent education and are getting an excellent education, but maybe could use a little bit extra help, right? Or you're giving money to some kids that are, you know, they're living in their car for a little while and they just need a little support so that they can focus in school, right?
Or need heat at night so they can sleep.
So many things. And we've heard so many amazing stories about, you know, just kids that are overcoming so much and their families that are overcoming so much, but just need our support. And I think that when people can be connected to that story, it goes a really long way because it really is. It's not about Jamie and I. It's about everybody in our district.
Of course.
Well, you know, a couple of years ago, Ken and I got to do a story with a student who I believe she graduated from Meridian High, and she shared her story with us. And it was at that time the Bridging the Gap funds that really helped her. You know what? Rugby was something that she loved to play and kept her coming to school every day, even if, you know, she needed gas cards to try to even get to school or needed some help with those pay to participate fees and sports team fees and things like that. Are there some things that have stood out to you? I mean, you've both only been here for about a year, so there may not be too many stories like that, but is there something that's really stood out to you, Jamie, that just keeps you coming back every day when you're facing challenges?
There's a lot of stories, and it's interesting because our campaign that is going to be upcoming in November, our Rise to the Challenge campaign, I asked our social workers for some stories. And I'm reading these emails and just weeping because it really, again, I think sometimes we live in a place where we don't see those needs every day in front of us, right? And so to realize those needs are all around us and to hear the stories is just so touching. So one of the things I'll share is about I kind of shared earlier, but about the bill, right? Like, so I got an urgent email approved through our committee because some of them have to be approved through a committee vote for RISE. And so if it's
Okay.
above and
Yeah.
beyond a certain
yeah.
threshold, or it's different, like the battery or the generator I spoke of, those have to be approved. And so we got an email and it said it was approved, and it was saying that their power was shut off. This is before it got really cold.
Sorry to interrupt
yes.
you, but I love that there's oversight. It's
Yes.
not like we're just
Yeah,
not,
yes.
that's not just throwing money.
Yes.
I'm using air quotes
Yeah.
at a problem. There's oversight
Yes.
to what you're doing.
Thank you.
And there's support structures in
Yes.
place to help get them out of those situations.
Yes.
And I appreciate you saying that, because it's one of the things that I really am very passionate about, is that we have a fiduciary responsibility for the money that
100%.
we raise.
Yeah.
And so there are checks and balances. I feel like I'm always looking for holes, and if there is, to figure out a new check and balance in
Sure.
that. So I just
Sure.
any donors, I want them to know. Thank you. So thank you for mentioning
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
But this email came through from the committee, and it was to pay their bill because it had just been shut off. And so I picked up the phone and I'm calling Idaho Power, and I had a moment of self-reflection, and I was thinking about this parent having to tell their kids that they don't have electricity that night. Right. And it made me so sad, because I've never had to even think about telling my kids that they don't have electricity.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And as I gave her the number to pay this bill, it's going to make me a little emotional. I just thought, we're saving that parent from that conversation that day.
Right.
We're allowing them the runway to be able to pay the next month's bill, so they don't have to have that conversation. And I thought, thank you for my job. Like, thank you that I get to be able to even participate in this person's life, whether they know it or not.
Right.
And thank you to the donors who contributed to be able to pay that bill.
Right.
And so it really is so impactful. That's one of the stories I think that I can share from this year, that, but there's so many.
Yeah.
There's so many.
Yeah.
I love that you got so many in a relatively short amount of time. I mean, Lila, same question for you. I mean,
Yeah.
what is there a story that's like, holy cow, this is why I do what I do?
I think just because we're talking about RISE, one of the ones, so we've been collecting stories in preparation for our campaign, but as someone who's a high school teacher for, forever, it feels like.
Bless you, by the way.
Yeah, like graduation is just such a powerful moment for kids, and especially kids that struggle to get there. And so like one of the things that we fund through RISE is like regalia for graduation, because it costs money, right?
Oh.
You need to buy a cap
It's
and
not
gown.
cheap.
My daughter graduated from Mountain View last
Yes.
year. Holy moly, there's a lot.
I just wrote that check.
Yeah. So
senior.
you have to buy your regalia, and you want to look the same as all of your peers. You want to be able to walk down the aisle
'Cause
like
that
everybody
matters.
else. Yes,
It
it
does
does
matter.
matter. And so like for students, we've had several emails from counselors saying that there are students whose families were like, we're not going to eat this month if we pay for this. Or a kid that's like, I'm just not going to graduate because I don't want to not eat for a month, which is completely reasonable.
And
so
they
for
shouldn't
us-
have to make that choice.
no, and it means, like what I love is that first we can cover those costs, and that those kids get to keep their dignity, and they get to walk down the aisle just like anyone else, and
Which
they get to
there's
celebrate.
nothing more valuable
Well,
than
yeah,
that.
and it's a huge accomplishment, especially if you've been struggling, or if that's where your home life is like, you're sort of on the verge, your family's doing their best, but they just can't make ends meet. I mean, that's a powerful thing, all right? And not to have to struggle on that day, and to get to fully celebrate with all of your peers. And for me as a high school teacher, I mean, like really, I could get emotional, I could cry. Just like, like when you're saying bye to your seniors, and you know how hard they've worked to get there, and that they have just this wide open space ahead of them for the rest of their lives.
Blank
I mean,
slate.
like, I think it's symbolically, it's just so important. And I'm just so glad that we can cover that, because I mean, it's a cost that I think people forget exists.
That's true. Can I just say really quick, if you are a family or a student listening to this and you are in need, and some of these resources that we've mentioned might be valuable to you or to your family, to please reach out to your counselor at your school site or your social worker.
Yeah.
They can direct you to any assistance that you might need. I also would like to plug our community schools.
Totally.
We have 4 community schools in our district that do phenomenal work. They have coats, they have shoes, they have food, they have resources. They are our community school liaisons are so passionate about what they do, and being able to, in the same vein as what we're covering, help these families. So there are so many resources available. So please look on our website to find information about community schools if that's of interest to you. But we just have a lot available. So do not struggle alone. There are a lot of resources to help you if you're a family in need.
Yeah, and we live in a very resource-rich valley, a resource-rich community. They're out there. So do use your resources to ask for help, at the school. That's why we have them there. And, on the opposite kind of end, families, students listening who want to give back? How can they help? How can they get involved with the foundation?
Yeah, thank you. So first and foremost, we're always taking donations. You can donate on our website, which is westadafoundation.org, which I'm sure you guys will put on the screen.
I'll put all this stuff in the
So
show
donations,
notes,
first and foremost, are always crucial. And we have our RISE campaign coming up. And so please participate in that if you're moved to support those families in our community that are in need. And then secondly, we're always looking for people to participate within the foundation. So if, I was talking about the board members, if that sounds like something that's of interest to you, please reach out to me directly. I would love to have that discussion with you. And then volunteer, right? We're always trying to get people engaged, whether it's through events or just hosting, like I said, our back to school coffees. We're looking for help for that next year. So if you'd like to get involved in anything sounds like it was of interest to you, please reach out to us directly. And lastly is if you're a corporation listening, or you own a corporation, or you know someone within a corporation, we are constantly looking for corporate partners. We have great visibility and we have a parent community that we reach out to. And so there's a lot of partnerships that just really work. And so please reach out to us if that sounds of interest.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, I say this all the time. I love my job because I get to look across this table and see passion from you all, and the passion for what you do. And of course, we work with you all, so we know how passionate you are about
and
what
how
you
hard
do.
you work.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, is there anything that we haven't covered, or like, hey, Ken, we should have talked about X, Y, or Z? Lila, I mean, anything that, or have we covered it?
I think,
any parting shots?
I don't know, but I think we covered it. I think I'm just so glad that we got to highlight RISE and highlight our innovation grants. I will just, because I'm here, I will just plug, if you're a teacher that's listening or an admin that's listening and you just want some opportunities for funding some cool stuff at your school, please do email me.
Yeah.
I'm always happy to come and visit and chat and come up with some sort of strategy for you guys. And I know Jamie would say the same. But besides that, I think we're pretty much.
Well, I might add, if you're out there and you are somebody who comes across a really cool grant opportunity that Lila might be able to write for, she's an incredible grant writer. Like, let her know. I send her random things all the time. She'll be like, yeah, I've already seen that one. But there might be something out there that she hasn't seen. So.
Okay, full disclosure, she copy edits me all the time, and she always fixes my writing.
She is phenomenal.
She's
will
really
say,
good at that.
Yeah, we are a mighty team of 2.5. Not that Erin is half, but she's here half time, so I say that.
Sure.
But I really am so grateful for our foundation team and our board of directors and the communications team, which is you guys and a few others that are here. We're so lucky to be able to do this work, and so I want to say huge thanks to any of our donors who contribute, whether it's to your child's classroom, whether it's to innovation grants, whether it's to RISE, however you contribute back to the schools. Thank you, because our students may never know that you did that, but they feel it every single day. So thank you guys for being a part of West Ada Education Foundation.
Yeah,
really
thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your time with us. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate you both. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
We are so lucky to get to work with two great people who are doing invaluable work.
You know what, Ken? Every day I get to see our colleagues in action, and we have such phenomenal people who pour so much into our students for their experience. And today with Jamie and Lila, that was really a positive, great conversation.
Well, and there's just a lot of need. When there's almost 40,000 kids in our district, there's going to be needs every day, and it's cool to have those people kind of taking points.
Well, and they're bringing awareness to it, and they're doing the hustle to bring the money to help solve the needs.
Well, it's really cool. Thank you, as always, for being here and for being a part of the conversation today. As always, please subscribe wherever you get your podcast. If you happen to listen on Apple, leave us a review there. You can also go to youtube.com and subscribe, and if you would like to watch, you can watch there. Please subscribe to that channel there. And you can learn more and listen to past episodes at westada.org/podcast. And I'm super excited about what we're going to do in December.
Yeah, we'll be coming at you from Rocky Mountain High School. We get to get out of the podcast studio and go see their choir. They are phenomenal. So we'll be bringing some holiday cheer and having all the students right there, and you'll get to see it firsthand. So that will definitely be an episode you'll want to watch on YouTube.
100%. And I'm just excited to hear from Brandy Cook is the instructor over there. She's a great teacher, and then we can also talk to one of the students as well. But also to let you hear one of our awesome choirs in the district perform for the cameras, for the microphones and cameras. It'll be a lot of fun.
It will be a lot of fun, and I'm always so impressed. And like always, if you have show ideas or you want to communicate something to us, share something, make a comment on one of our podcasts, you can email us at communicate@westada.org, and Ken and I will be sure to read those and respond to you.
So great. And as always, thank you for being here. It's great to have you to be a part of the podcast, and we will see you with excitement in December.